Well, we've seen the pick your main guides, and it's all fun and games, but the truth is, the hour is nigh. We only got 1 week left before midnight releases for early access, and it's time, boys. It's time to pick your main. This is the only guide you need to pick your main for Midnight WoW here from the Comeback Kids. Let's check this one out real quick and see what you should be using as kind of a decision-making process to pick your main for Midnight.
It's the same cycle every WoW expansion. You stare at the character screen and scroll through the options. You open up a tier list and watch a couple YouTube videos, hear about what's broken or safe, and you make a choice. Then 3 weeks later, you're either bored or re-rolling. I'm not kidding when I say this.
The best is, or 3 weeks later, new patch, new buffs and nerfs come out, and that main that you picked because he was the hardest hitting class at the time is now complete shit. That's why I tell people, I'm like, don't pick a main based on who's currently the meta heading into the expansion. This is ridiculous. That shit's going to change. There's no chance that things remain the same throughout the entire expansion. So I always tell people, just pick whatever the hell you like. Whatever you enjoy playing, just pick that and try to get good at it, so that way you're not only enjoying playing, but people are enjoying you playing that character. Now, let's see what his criteria are for picking your main.
A main choice can either make or break an expansion for people who don't have much time to play, and picking a main should not feel like a gamble. So before Midnight launches, let's stop chasing the meta for a second, stop copying the tier list, and definitely stop pretending like we're about to push Race to World first. Instead, let's figure out a class that will perfectly fit you. Because if you pick a main that fits exactly how you want to play the game, not just how you wish to play it, you won't burn out and you can have an amazing expansion experience. Now here's the real issue. There are over 40 different specs to play in World of Warcraft. Tons of play styles, multiple role types, different levels of even responsibility.
It's actually crazy when you think about it.
Different class fantasies, and most people try to pick their main by jumping straight into the end and asking one question: what is the best? And I think when you're playing an MMORPG, that is one of the biggest mistakes you could possibly make.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to find the best spec right away, you need to start eliminating these specs that simply just...
You'll know it. Over time, you'll know playing this game that you can try to play the best class, the one who's doing the most DPS, but at the end of the day, the class is never going to carry you. The player is going to carry the class. I've seen it many times where a spec that's considered to be bottom of the barrel shows up to a raid and absolutely pumps his dick off. And that's because the guy behind the keyboard is just a freaking G. He's just a Giga Chad, and it doesn't matter what he plays. He's just going to pump the shit out of it. He's going to optimize his gameplay, and he's going to play it like a freaking Giga Chad that he is. So thinking that you're going to be carried by a class because it's doing a lot of damage is just not the case. You're actually going to look freaking worse if you're not you're not fully into it. You don't know how to play it well and everything else, because the guys who are playing it and actually know it, they're going to do way more damage than you. So you're never going to be carried by the class. Not to mention, as I said, patches are going to come out all the time. And these numbers are going to change all the time. Buffs and nerfs all across. If anything's guaranteed during expansion, there's going to be hundreds of freaking tons of rounds of buffs and nerfs. So playing whatever's the best at the launch is just not the right way to do it. So the opposite of Sam. Look, as a man of the people, I play Blood DK because it's literally, the lore is about serving the people, right? I fell in battle, okay, holding off the entire Scourge by myself. The Lich King saw how great I was and decided to raise me as one of his great generals, right? And then after that, after I broke free of the Lich King and got my free will back, I continued to serve the people after death, tanking and holding aggro so the people can do the things they have to do. I mean, if that's not a man of the people, I don't know what is, and that's why I play Blood DK.
Don't fit your gameplay style or feel at all. It's not about finding the strongest class, it's just simply about removing the ones that are wrong for you. So instead of going with what's meta, we're going to attack this in a couple layers, because once you eliminate what doesn't fit for you, what's left is not random, it's your main character. With the first stop being figuring out who you are as a player. This is the part of the video where you honestly have to be real with yourself. Are you competitive? Are you chill and laid back? Are you someone that doesn't have much time to play? It's so important to be who you really are rather than something you're not. Do you really care about being at the top of the meters, whether it be for healing or DPS? Do you genuinely find a massive satisfaction from parsing well, optimizing cooldowns, and squeezing out that 1% to get better? Or are you the type of player who just wants to log in, run some keys with your guild or friends, and enjoy the experience without it turning into a
makes good
second
points.
job? Another good question is, are you a leader? Are you more comfortable in a support role?
Am I a leader? Look at me. Come on. I really got to answer that question, right? Chat, am I a leader? Clearly I'm a leader. Look at me. Every day I lead raids. Every day I lead Mythic Plus. I mean, I might as well be the CEO of this game at this point. That's how much I lead. No, you're not. No, you're not. Okay, we're going to stop reading chat then. Let's just move on.
There are some players that naturally want to control situations. They want to set the pace.
I'm not going to look at chat.
They want to pull the packs, make the callouts, and organize everything. And then there are some other players who are perfectly happy enabling the group to keeping everyone alive. They set things up for other people. They support from the background. Again, neither is better, but if you pick a class that forces you into a leadership position where you hate pressure,
Group
you're
healer.
going to feel that friction pretty much every step of the way whenever you're playing World of Warcraft. Then there's that question of, do you like pressure or do you like comfort? I'll tell you one thing, after a long-ass day of work, I'm trying to wind down with World of Warcraft. Sure, I love my high-end content every once in a while. I'll do my heroic raiding, I'll do my Mythic Plus high-end keys, and I'll be good to go. But most days, I just want to do some solo content like Delves and Prey, and casually
Is this Greg? Is Greg talking right now? We all know Greg from accounting. That's what he does, right? Greg plays Hunter. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that to you guys. Greg plays a dwarf hunter. You know, he's literally, his pet is a bear. And he just loves to just run his delves nonstop. That's what Greg does. Every day he logs in. I'm talking about Greg from accounting where I work. And he just, you know, at night after his wife is asleep, because of course he can't play when his wife's awake. Otherwise, she would know that he was enjoying himself and try to ruin it for him. So Greg, you know, stays up in the wee hours of the night, running his delves.
Says a real leader doesn't brick FKN plus 2 MDFK. In fact, you didn't have a leader role since Sandovin, so can you stop lying?
This is ridiculous. What kind of fake lore is that? The fuck is that? Anyways, so Greg be running his delves through the middle of the night, right? And Greg picked the class of a hunter, not only because he's a man of the forest. He wants to escape and get away. B1, thank you for the follow, man. Welcome to our Scourge. He's essentially one with nature in the game, right? And he could have played Druid, but he always wanted to kind of run around like Legolas from Lord of the Rings doing his thing. And he would run his delves throughout the night, right? His tank is his pet is tanking. And what's great about a hunter for him is it does what he needs. Okay, he loves to run that solo content, and hunters have always been one of the best solo content classes to play in the game. So that's what Greg does. He doesn't play it because it's hitting the hardest that season. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. But Greg plays Hunter because he is a hunter. Greg is the hunter. The hunter is Greg, just like Sam is a Blood DK. And that's what you should look for when you're picking a class.
Some dungeons, and there's nothing wrong with that, and that's coming from a content creator. Other players love high-stakes moments. They love being the difference between a wipe and a clear and slightly beating that Mythic Plus timer. And then there are other players like myself that want something a little bit more stable and predictable, where one small mistake doesn't feel like I wasted an hour of my life because I only have a limited time to play. It's important to know, of course, these aren't gameplay questions. They're simple personal identity check questions. Because if you pick a class or spec that goes against your personality or identity, believe it or not, you're going to end up probably pissed off. I know some players who are very, very casual, but they love the idea of tanking. To be honest, tanking forces you into a role of heavy responsibility and heavy knowledge checks in the game, and it could be a problem for them. So before we talk specs, you need to ask yourself these questions. Who are you when you log into World?
Look, if you're going to be a tank, you got to do one thing first. You got to look between your legs and see, do you got a schlong hanging there? And if you do, you can tank, like me. If you don't, then just, go do something else, because it's a major responsibility. You got people's lives in your hands. You got to know the routes. You got to know the mechanics. It's a big take. It's not a casual way to play the game for sure. So if you're going to tank, just know there's a bit more responsibility in this game, bit more pressure, and if you can handle it, then you go ahead and try it. I do suggest to a lot of people try tanking. It's a lot of fun. But if you can't, then, sit back, maybe play a ranged DPS or something.
Warcraft. Now we need to talk about something even more important than figuring out who you are personally. We need to talk about how you actually like to play the game. Not how you wish you played, not how your favorite streamer or content creator plays, how you actually enjoy logging in and spending your time. Because this right here changes everything. I personally want to be a rank 1 gladiator in arenas and get a perfect team together for rated RBGs, but as I've gotten older, I realize I don't really give a shit about PvP anymore. So you have to be honest with yourself. Do you mostly join pickup groups? Do you run with a lot of random players? Do you like to play solo? When you log in, do you like to do world quests, the new prey system, delves, and maybe if you have extra free time, you'll do a Mythic Plus key? What if you want to push high-end content like title range for Mythic Plus or Mythic Rating? As you can see, there's a lot of options here, simply coming out of how you actually like to play World of Warcraft. This is why I think copying tier lists do not work, and the reason we make them on this channel is just give you a starting point on picking a class or a spec that you might be interested in.
Sure. Yeah, so if I look down and have a vagina, what then? That's a good question. That's a good question. So your default is healer, obviously. That's the trope you're supposed to be in. But if you want to, I don't know what entails schlong to vagina, but whatever it is, you're making me get into shit that I'm not really sure about. But at the end of the day, if your vagina is schlongy, whatever that is, then you can tank, okay? Vaginas can tank too. That's fine. Not with your vagina. That might not be the optimal way to run a route, but you can tank if you have a vagina. You don't have to default into healer like the tropes say, okay? The other thing, and I was going to say, is he's making a great point here about how do you play the game. Okay, how do you play the game? Because it does change from expansion to expansion. It changes over the course of your life. Maybe you're like me. Season 2 and 3, I was rank 1 gladiator. Those days are long behind me. I don't do that shit no more. Right, I got kids and stuff right now. Also, I like to remain a man of the people. I don't show them those kinds of skills on stream anymore because it makes me feel like disconnected from the people. So, whereas when I was playing my hunter or playing my mage, yeah, I would go for a gladiator. I don't do that anymore. I don't, and that's changed, and maybe that changes what your main's going to be for the next expansion. So, yes, certainly considering what you're going to be doing in the next expansion is a good way to decide maybe what class you want to play. Vaginas take a beating. That's true. Vaginas do hold aggro in life. That is true, actually. Sometimes unwanted aggro. Yeah, so yeah, be careful with that. But yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, vaginas can tank, no doubt.
Because I think your environment, your IRL schedule, your goals, your group setup, or whether you play solo or whatever, definitely helps determine whether a class should feel good or just be miserable for you. So before you think about anything else, you got to ask yourself, what would be my realistically perfect WoW week? What would something like that look like? Because your main needs to fit that actual reality. Now, the part we're diving into now is typically where most people start off, but now it would make a lot more sense once you understand yourself, your lifestyle, and even your World of Warcraft playing preferences and habits. Now, first and foremost, the easiest way to trim the fat with all specs in the game, let's talk about role type. You genuinely need to ask yourself, do I like the idea of potentially healing? Do I like the idea of tanking and the pressure that comes with it? If you don't seriously like the idea of playing a healer or a tank in Mythic Plus or Raid content, then you immediately trim out like half the specs in all of World of Warcraft. Personally, listen, I love the idea of playing as a healer or a tank, but
yeah, and like one thing about picking your role is if you're unsure, and you think maybe you want to do a little bit of all three, then pick a class that can be all three, right? You got your paladins, you got your druids. Who else is a good example of ones that can be all three? Maybe shaman one day, they can't tank yet. But there's classes out there that have a tank spec, healing spec, and DPS spec. So picking one of those, monk is another one. Yep, that's right. Picking one of those might be the right choice for you because at the end, then you can make your swaps mid-season. You decide you want to start DPSing instead of tanking. Well, you picked one that can do that. Or you want to heal instead of DPSing. Yeah, you can go that route too. So having a class with a variety of options might be the choice for you.
I'm never going to pick that as my main character. I don't want the stress and pressure it takes every time to log in to be a healer or a tank. That's why I want to play sometimes casually, just play my DPS and go about my day. You have to know picking a role is honestly about ownership. If you're playing a tank, you control the majority of what's going on in your Mythic Plus. And typically, you're one of the first people blamed for pretty much everything. But with that being said, you also have the most agency, and you can determine how you want to play. You get instant queues, you're in very high demand, you're always needed 24/7. Now, if you like having that leadership option, but don't always want that pressure every single night, maybe you pick a class that can tank, but also has another option, whether it be DPS or healing.
Yeah, good point.
And speaking of healing, this role type is all about being reactive to the dangers of what's going on. This role type is built on stress, and it's definitely the role type that gets the least amount of glory out of all of them. But you have to know it is...
Yeah, if the run goes really good, well, great, we had good DPS. And if the run goes bad, it's the healer's fault, right? Even though in both cases it could be the healer that should be given the credit. But definitely, as a healer, you will get blamed for people dying. Somebody stands in the fire, not their fault. Your fault for not healing them through the fire.
The most powerful. It doesn't matter how amazing your tank is. If your healer sucks, your group party members are going to die. You feel the impact of every decision you make as a healer, and it could definitely be satisfying. But then again, you got to think long term. If all you do is either purely tank or heal, it can be the first ticket train to burning out in World of Warcraft and not wanting to play that character anymore. That's why personally, I like to have healing and tanking as an alternate character option and do what I like to do most, which is stress-free, and that's DPS. DPS has the lowest leadership pressure in the game. You literally focus on performance, you optimize, you compete for damage, and it's the most popular role in the game for a reason. Now, I will say, if you don't want that flexibility of potentially being able to play as a healer or a tank whenever you want, I would recommend playing a pure DPS class.
True.
For example,
one good reason why, if you've really decided that you just want a DPS in this expansion, one good reason why picking Rogue, Hunter, Mage, or Warlock is that one of their 3 specs is usually the S tier. It's almost always guaranteed. Like, I don't know if there's ever been a time where all 3 of their specs suck. So if you just want to play a DPSer, but you're not sure which one's going to be good, and you want to make sure that you're at least playing one that is good at some point in the expansion, well, then picking one of these 4 is definitely going to guarantee that, because one of their specs is always going to be good. That's for sure.
Classes like Mage, Warlock, Hunter, Rogue. Within these, you have 3 different DPS spec options that you can change through constantly, which give you a wide variety of gameplay. If you know you're somebody who likes to reroll constantly and you want to get different gameplay feels every couple of weeks, then pick something stable and flexible that can fit your gameplay style. The biggest mistake I see people make when they're picking a main is that they pick a spec rather than a class as a whole. God forbid you get bored of that spec or that spec gets nerfed, and you will be in a lot of trouble out of nowhere. Now, a minor point, believe it or not, you can actually pick a class based on how easy or hard it is to play.
Sure.
Some people like complicated rotations.
Nothing wrong with that.
Mastering them. Some people like simple 3 to 4 button rotations. There's no right answer here, but if you pick a spec that fights your natural want and I guess sort of gameplay rhythm and style, you could probably feel pretty drained every session, whether it be because it's too easy or it's too hard. Personally, I love the idea of playing a Retribution Paladin. I really do, but from a gameplay perspective, it's a little bit too straightforward for me. And
most played spec in the game, Retribution Paladin, and a lot of people, give it credit. Its class design is S tier. It is. It's just it feels good to play as Retribution Paladin. I can't speak from experience, but I can tell you what people who play Ret play or say, and that is just that the consensus is it's one of the best classes when it comes to just the feeling of playing it, of DPSing with it. And so if you want to try something new and something that a lot of people say good things about, yeah, Retribution Paladin's a really good DPSer.
I find myself getting bored very
Perfect
quickly.
gameplay and fantasy.
I love
yeah,
the complicated nature of playing Arcane Mage. I played it all throughout Season 3 of The War Within, but maybe I don't want to have a headache every single time I log in and play. So I try to find that good middle ground for me, and these are questions you need to ask yourself. And next up, we have one of the most slept-on decisions you'll probably make, and believe it or not, it's based off of class fantasy. Now, I'll be upfront and honest, this may not be a big decision for most people, but for personally me, That's
Greg right there, man. Live shot of Greg. Look at him. Getting ready to go into his delve. Look at him. What a G. It's true. It does matter. For me, it matters. I care about the lore. I've cared about the lore in the game for a long time, and I care about the lore of my own character. You guys are always like, why, Sam? Why you playing a human? Why you being a boring-ass bitch and playing a human? Why do I play a human? Because the fantasy is I am Samiccus, and Samiccus is I. That's part of my lore, my internal lore for Samiccus. And I died defending Lordaeron. I took on like 700 members of the Scourge all at once. The Lich King was so impressed with me that he B-resed me after I died. So that's just, that goes into my lore. And I love the lore of Death Knights in general. I always thought they were freaking cool. I always thought it was a badass, backstory for them. So yeah, picking the lore matters. Some people don't care. Yeah, I see Ghost in chat saying yawn and everything. Maybe you don't care about the class fantasy that you're going to play as, but to me, it just adds more immersion into the game. It does. And what are you playing this game for? A lot of us play to escape fucking real life, because real life sucks. So if you want to be more immersed in the game, pick a class that you enjoy the background lore for.
This is a humongous part of picking a class for a season in World of Warcraft for me. My main character is my identity for the next 6 months. It's the character I see every single time I log in, the spell effects filling my screen for solo content like delves, or the character you try to down these epic raid bosses with your guild on. It's the armor and tier sets I'm grinding for weeks on end to try to collect.
So why aren't you undead rather than human if you protected Lordaeron? Isn't it obvious? Because I got literally B-resed instantly. Arthas was so impressed with my battle prowess that I got instantly B-res. To be undead, you would have to. It's a different thing. I'd have to be dead for a while, decrepit, and then decay, and then come back. It's different. Okay, I was instantly B-resed. That's why. That's why I look so fantastic, even though I'm undead.
Like, it's the sound my abilities and characters make over and over again. To me, class fantasy is a decision that truly matters. Midnight as an expansion has a much darker and heavier tone in terms of class fantasy and lore and theme, and is substantially more atmospheric than things like, Dragonflight and the War Within. You got Dark Void energy, ancient powers, Eversong Woods we're going back to, Xalatath, the world potentially being succumbed to an entirety of darkness. If your class does not fit that class fantasy for you in your head, it could definitely throw you off. So the question is, does your Volpira monk really fit that vibe for you?
Why he got to use Volpira as an example? Why he got to use Volpira? Why? Volpira monk of all things. Why? Because they have abilities that have to do with fisting too. I mean, we all know why people play Volpira. Look, I'm not going to get into that. That's more of a racial thing than a class thing. But people will play certain things in this game because of sexual fetishes. I'll put that out there. Maybe you're new to WoW and you don't know this. But you got to be careful what you pick now, because you're going to attract a certain crowd when you're playing a Volpira. I'm just letting you know.
This expansion, or are you looking for something different? For example, during Season 2 of the War Within, the Undermine patch, I was playing a Blood Elf Rogue at the time. I really liked my Blood Elf at the time, but I didn't think the class fantasy or my transmog and character feel fit into that Undermine seasonal patch. So believe it or not, I race changed him to an engineer Volpira rogue that was a master at racing down in the Undermine, and it completely changed the entire way
I was not expecting a Comeback Kids furry arc right now, but I guess it happened.
Played that patch. My point is that when the hype settles down, after an expansion launches and you're logging in after work or late at night, you're not staying around because you're 1% better than the DPS next to you. You're staying because you have a real attachment to the game and your character, because the animations feel good, because it feels good when you hear the sound design, the transmog looks good, and the character feels like one you can head into Midnight with and save the world. You see yourself teaming up with characters like Eretor, Anduin, Zul'Jara. If you do not vibe with how your character feels from a thematic standpoint, to me, it's a problem for me mentally down the line. So I think when you tie something like that together with, the playstyle that fits your schedule, a role type that fits your personality, and then, the philosophies that help you pick a class, whether they're safe or the best or easy or whatever, I think that's when you know you found your main. So before you click the create character or lock in your main for Midnight, here's the priority order I want you to think about. Number one is identity. Okay. Who are you as a player? Are you competitive? Are you chill? Are you a leader or you're a support?
I'm a man of the people.
Do you prefer pressure? Do you like comfortability?
That's what I am.
Chilling out? If your class fights your personality, you're going to feel it every single session. Number two is lifestyle. How do you actually play World of Warcraft?
I stream in the mornings.
Do you like to join mostly pugs? Do you only play solo for delves and prey? Do you like to push high-end content? Do you like to do casual content? Your main has to fit your realistic schedule and environment, not some fantasy version of yourself that's not realistic. Number three, responsibility and flexibility. Do you want ownership and control? Do you want low pressure? Do you need role flexibility in case you want to try out tanking or healing?
I want to take on the responsibility of leading the people, so I'll take it on. That's fine.
Class not just a spec, that gives you room to breathe across an entire expansion. And finally, number 4, fantasy. Does your character actually excite you? Do the visuals, the hero talents, the armor, and the overall vibe fit Midnight in your head? Because when the hype fades, I think attachment in fantasy is what could keep you logged in. I think if you follow that order, I think you guys will be just fine. You'll land on the right one. I hope you all got some benefit out of this video. If you did and you found it at least a little bit useful, leave a comment below this video saying Midnight Hype and then follow it with the class you're supposed to be maining heading to the new expansion. I love you guys. God bless every single one of you. By the way, if you're interested, check out the new merch, man. We just released it last night on stream.
Nice.
We've already gotten, I think, 9 orders total. Check it out. Link in description below. I promise you guys won't be disappointed. My name's Sky. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Yeah, nice video overall. I agree with a lot with what he said. And what's good about this video is it's not about you know, the class that's best, the current meta, or anything like that. It's about picking the class that you enjoy most. It really is. The class that you enjoy, the class that you want to play as, your style, the gameplay you want to get into in this game. I'm going to go ahead and post what he said. Yeah, that's right. And so overall, nice video. I agree with a lot of this. And pick a class that you're going to have fun. It's a video game at the end of the day, guys. Don't take it too seriously. Enjoy the expansion. Enjoy the gameplay, which you enjoy playing. Nice video from the Comeback Kids.